he feared for his life, and he was able to use the force necessary to neutralize that threat. That is what stand your ground gives you the opportunity to do. In all of the stand your ground states, and specifically the state of Texas, you're able to not retreat. If the threat is coming toward you, you do not have to run. You do not have to leave. If you're fearful, you can neutralize that threat, and that's what the law states.
So my next question, and you kind of touched on it already. Um, my next question was going to be, how does the factor like provocation and unlawful possession of a weapon affect the self-defense claim in Texas in general? Because I've heard a lot of people on a lot of these panels that are Austin supporters want to bring up the poker or the utensil that was used in this case. Um, so, how does that factor into this case? Like, how does provocation and the unlawful possession of a weapon affect self-defense in Texas?
In Texas, provocation is something that has nothing to do with self-defense.
Okay.
I know people like to talk about provocation because provocation is probably written in every code in every state and even in some countries outside of the United States of America. However, provocation is you provoking someone. That's all that root word is, provoke. You're provoking someone to do something. That means I am pushing you to do whatever harm that you're doing to me. In this situation, Karmelo Anthony was sitting down minding his own business. He did not have any words to. He didn't call over Austin Metcalf, Hunter Metcalf, or the other two gentlemen that was with them. He did not call them over and tell them to come over and stand in front of him. He didn't call them over and told them to put their hands on them and start pushing, hitting, and stomping, or whatever they were doing to him. He did not call them over to do that. They came on their own. And by Hunter's own account, from his first interview he gave, fresh off this situation on August the 2nd, on the 8th of the 2nd of this year, he stated that he, his brother, and two friends were coming from the middle school, State Middle School in Frisco, and he said that they walked up and they saw Karmelo sitting there, and they asked Karmelo to move. That is nothing about provocation. Provocation means that Karmelo Anthony would have to come up to them and told them, "Hey, you want to fight?" That's provocation. And so all these people making those arguments, case law states against them in the state of Texas and really in all 50 states in the United States of America. The second part is they talk about the weapon or the knife. In the state of Texas, they passed a House bill, so it's a law in the state of Texas that any knife that blade is 5.5 inches or less is legal for you to carry anywhere in the state of Texas by anyone. That means your 4-year-old can have a knife on their side, which a lot of kids in Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts, they're usually given a utility knife, which has the screwdrivers and the scissors and all that stuff on it. I carried it when I was in Boy Scouts, when I was in school back in the day. I'm born and raised in Texas. I carried a knife all 12 years in school. And so they're there. Now, whether your school has a policy against it or not, that's a whole different thing because we're not talking about policy. We're talking about law. And so the law in the state of Texas says that knife that we still don't know who brought it, because we know Hunter had been given one with his initial that was black as well, that we have a picture that he was carrying in his pocket as well. So it could have been Hunter's. It could have been Austin's. It could have been a lot of people's. But what I do know from seeing the video is that when they approached Karmelo Anthony and then they laid hands on him and attacked him, Karmelo actually backed out of the canopy and tried to get away. They pulled him back in by his gray hoodie, and then that's when the alleged poking, slashing, or whatever the case may be happened. And then he backed back out again, looked to his right, couldn't go that way. He looked to the left and took off. And as he went down, he fell, and then he got back up and took off again.